what did we learn from the Euro 2020 semi-finals? First up, Andy, let's focus on England against Denmark. First ever European Championship final for England. It was tight after extra time. They made it very difficult for themselves. Denmark, to their credit, scored a great goal to go ahead early. Were very, very tough to break down and hung in there the entire 120 minutes. But for you, what did you learn from this? Because there were some key tactical things I thought that separated England from Denmark in this game.
Yeah, I think we keep learning that England can find ways to win different games. They haven't really played the same game twice in this tournament, have they? They struggled a little bit through the group stages to get going, and maybe Gareth Southgate was just slow playing it just a little bit, holding back, trying to get the team where he wanted it defensively, knowing what was ahead in the knockout rounds, knowing the squad that he had, the possibilities of what could be with this team, and then they really seemed like he just kind of pressed that gas pedal through the floor once they got to the knockout rounds, especially against Ukraine. And then it was a little bit more tough against Denmark on Wednesday, but they proved that they can figure out a really, really tough challenge, because I don't think anybody gave Denmark nearly enough credit ahead of the semifinal, ahead of the tournament at any point, for just how good that team has been. So much of the attention has been focused on, well, they've been resilient in the wake of what happened to Christian Eriksen in the first game. They're just a good team. They're just really, really good. And they proved, how difficult they were to break down. And for England, to go behind as well, they showed that they can trail, they can concede a goal. They're not perfect. They're not quite perfect. It took a sensational free kick to put one past Jordan Pickford, but it took him, I think, 9 minutes to get level. And the image that sticks in my head, and I don't know if if it was seen over in the UK or elsewhere in the world, but there was a shot of Harry Kane immediately after the goal went in. He's kind of backpedaling towards the center circle to restart, and he's pointing to his head. He's talking to his teammates. He's telling them, don't let it break you. Compose yourself. Prepare. We've got 60 more minutes of this game, and it just didn't affect them in the way that maybe England teams in the past it would have. The pressure of being at home, the pressure of a semifinal, the pressure of being the favorites, and then going a goal down after conceding for the first time all tournament, it didn't phase them in a way that England teams in the past, or a lot of teams in the world, would have. So we learned resilience, I think, from this England team, and given how many young players there are in that squad, that was a bit of a question mark, I think, because when the occasion got that big, could they step up to it? And they absolutely did.
They did, and I think, as you said, first time in the tournament they conceded a goal. It was a beauty of a free kick from Damsgaard. Pickford, I think maybe his positioning, it was a bit central, but it's probably harsh. It was just a one-off, a wonder goal, and England responded really well. And that's what I learned about them there, because you could see almost that tournament experience from the 2018 World Cup of a lot of this squad. And then you look at, a lot of players now coming through the ranks, Phil Foden and many others, have had experience of winning titles, world titles and other trophies with the English youth teams. And I think that's kind of in the psyche now of this English team. They know how to handle these tournament situations. And as you said, they're still very young. So there's a lot there for Gareth Southgate to nurture and, frankly, to get even better at in the future, which is exciting. But for me, I think Denmark made the changes too early, obviously brought off Damsgaard and Dolberg. I think they maybe they had to for energy reasons, but when they took those players off, they kind of lost a bit of their threat in the final third, and then it was just wave after wave of England attack, pretty much from 60th, 70th minute onwards, and then throughout the majority of extra time, even though Denmark had a late flurry. But I did speak to Harry Kane after the game. I asked him about winning the Golden Boot, because would you believe now he's only one goal off being the top goal scorer at the tournament, and he said he doesn't care about winning the Golden Boot, but if he does, then it probably means that England are going to win the Euros, because he'll score a couple in the final. So it was a kind of a case of why not both from Harry Kane. When he said that, you could see his kind of a glint in his eye, and he's obviously already wrapped up the Golden Boot in the Premier League this season as well. So I think a special shout out to Raheem Sterling and Harry Kane for really stepping up big in this tournament when England needed them. And again, got to salute Denmark for their incredible resilience. Nick, I wanted to ask you about the key moment in that semi-final in particular, the penalty kick. I saw that you had some interesting comments on social media. Did you think it was a penalty kick that Raheem Sterling won?
So yes and no. I think it wasn't a penalty kick. I think when the call is made, it's never getting overturned because there is contact. There's even an arm on the side there that should never be enough to knock over Sterling, who's kind of one of the princes of diving. I mean, he's very good at it. Honestly, and that's not an insult. It is a skill. Whether you like it or not, it's a skill, and he's very good at it. So no, I don't think it should have been called. I think that's a gutsy decision. But when it went to VAR, I was like, there's one angle where you can tell a calf touches a calf, and it's not enough to knock a human being over, but it takes the clear and obvious out of it. That said, Sterling has been wonderful. Kane has been wonderful. And I couldn't help but think back to the 2014 World Cup where England goes out in the group stage. And it's all about, remember how Wayne Rooney had failed them, even though he scored one of their 2 goals or whatever. And I just thought Wayne Rooney is loving this, but he's also watching this thinking like, where was my incredible defense? Like I got Glenn Johnson, no offense, running around out there. And where's my, he had 18-year-old Luke Shaw. This is fully wonderful, resurgent, Mourinho exercised Luke Shaw. And there are so many England players probably looking on with great pride, but also thinking, man, how many Harry Kanes over the years would have loved to have this team behind them?
Definitely. Solid base. I think that says a lot about Southgate. As a player, he was like that. As a manager, he's like that, very calm, composed, methodical. And you're right. As long as England aren't conceding many goals, they have so many great attacking talents. Saka, Sterling, Kane, Foden, Mount, Grealish. I mean, Rashford hasn't even really got a look in this tournament. That they can hurt teams for sure. So they have to stay solid, and that's going to be key. But we did learn they've got resilience, and that was a big, big moment for these young players. Nick, I want to ask you about the other semi-finals at Wembley. I would say arguably from a footballing purist point of view, probably the best game of the tournament, Italy against Spain. The intensity, the quality of play. I mean, Italy won on penalties. It was incredible drama there, and it was almost like a home game at Wembley with so many Italians living here in England, heading to London for that game. But what do we learn about Italy and Spain in particular? Focus on Italy first. What do we learn about Italy in that semi-final?
That they're a tough group of guys. They are a tough out. They got broken down once on a great 1-2 with Murata and Olmo. And how do you say Oyothabal? Is that how we say it? He probably could have scored a couple of goals if his first touch was good, but he struggled as well. That said, I mean, Italy is a machine. We talked about it in the group stage. They move together. They are very difficult to find the openings on. If there's a way to do it, which Harry Kane will be thinking about, it's that those 2 center backs in Bonucci and Chiellini are a little older and not as fast as they used to be, if they ever were. But my God, are they well positioned? And I think this feels like likely to be 0-0 into the second half, because even if these teams are attacking with all gusto, and we'll get to the preview in a minute with England, Italy is so difficult. They didn't even play Locatelli, who's been one of the revelations of the tournament. Verratti is, for a guy who didn't play until the 3rd group stage game for about 2 months, looks incredible. And their forwards are interchangeable. I think this has the opportunity to be one of those tactical masterpieces, if you will, where maybe people turn in for the Euro and say, oh, I don't get what non-soccer people, I don't quite get what I just watched. And the rest of us are like, I do. And that was awesome. And Italy has that. And just the quick Spain comment, because I took too long talking about, I think the vowel at the end of my last name might betray me here. But Spain, what Luis Enrique's done with those technical players, with a mix of young and old, not bringing Sergio Ramos, but still getting to this point. Look out for them in the future.
Definitely. Andy, final point on Spain, because I thought they were quite unlucky. They deserved to win that game.
Yes.
But I think Italy, over the course of the tournament, I said this at Wembley, I think probably deserved to get over the line and get to the final, considering their body of work. But Pedri was excellent in midfield. I mean, Luis Enrique was just absolutely waxing lyrical about him after the game. They have a bright future, right? Because their possession-based style, a lot of teams just aren't as patient as maybe Italy were, and want to break out and leave them gaps. And the only thing that's missing for Spain is a finisher, as we've seen the whole tournament.
Yeah, same exact story, really, for England. Kind of the story of the knockout rounds, at least, where those two were clearly probably easily, I think, the two best teams for 2 games, 2.5 games. But then they came up against Spain. I'm talking about Italy here, and they were frustrated in that first half. They were really poor. I don't think they had a shot in the first half. And given what they've done in this tournament, it's this is not your grandfather's Italy. The way that they have been playing and pressing. One of the things I wrote after they won in the quarterfinals was Spain will be a tough matchup because how do you press the unpressable team, the team that is so good in possession? And Italy could not get anywhere near the ball for 45, even going on 60 minutes. And so they really had to, kind of dig deep a little bit. Obviously, the resilience was there, but come up with a way that they could take control of the game just a little bit more, and they could have a little bit more of the chances. They could be a little bit more threatening. And so to have to kind of figure out that puzzle on the fly in a semifinal is a very difficult thing against the quality competition that they face. So for once, I think we actually have the two very best teams at the tournament that have reached the final, and it's so rare that happens, and it just makes it that much more of an occasion.
Absolutely. But yeah, Spain got a bright future. Denmark as well did themselves proud. But Italy and England won the semi-finals. And over on Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com, we'll have you covered all the latest Euro 2020 news. Head into that final. And it's been a joy and a pleasure to watch this tournament this summer. We said it before the start. It's a great tournament, 24 teams, almost better than the World Cup in some ways. And boy, has it delivered.